Hello everyone, thanks for coming along today. It's good to see a good crowd of people here. Can I just start with a question? Has anyone yet done their mitochondrial DNA? Because that's really what we're going to be talking about today. Few hands, okay. Well, that's good. I hope there's a few more. Maybe we'll decide to do it after today's talk. But really what we're going to be seeing today is how much mitochondrial DNA is going to change. But I'm going to start with just an introduction to the different types of DNA tests that you can do. And I'm just going to talk you very briefly through that. So the one at the top left here, Y-DNA, that's a test that only males can do. And it follows their patrilineal line. So it's the father's, 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 father. And that goes back many, many generations. In fact, it goes back hundreds of thousands of years. And you can get information on that line going right back and probably matches back about 1,000 years. So that's a really interesting thing to do. The autosomal test at the bottom, if anyone's done Ancestry or MyHeritage or 23andMe, that's the test that you have done. So that's autosomal DNA, but it's only one of the 4 types of DNA. And Ancestry and MyHeritage only do one type of DNA. So that's autosomal, and it goes back to about your 5 times great grandparents. So it's about 8 generations that it will give you, but everybody's mixed up on that. You don't know exactly which line you're related to someone. That's the bit you have to work out yourself. So with the Y-DNA, it's totally different because you already know what line it is, because the only people that will match you are the people who are related to you through your father's 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 father. And that goes right back. So the one we're talking about today is mitochondrial DNA. And it's the opposite of the Y-DNA. It's the mother's 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 mother. So it's really, they call that the matrilineal line. So again, that's a line that's very hard to work on in your family history. And if you think about it, the surname is changing every generation. That's why it's hard. And that's why we all come to brick walls and we don't know where we're going with it. So the advantage of mitochondrial DNA is that if you get a match with someone, you know that they're related to you on that particular line on your family tree. And it can help you get beyond those brick walls. Now, there's been a little issue with it at the moment. And up until now, mitochondrial DNA has been the least useful of the DNA tests. The reason for that is that it changes very slowly over time. And when you're looking at DNA, we're always measuring changes. So it's mutations, variants, changes, whatever you want to call them, it's all the same thing. So things change very slowly as the generations go on. They shouldn't, but just humans being humans, things just change a wee bit. And that's what we're measuring when we're looking at Y or mitochondrial DNA. And there isn't as many changes on the mitochondrial, and because of that, people have said, yes, it's an interesting thing to do, but it's not as genealogically useful. And that's now starting to change. So I've got a bit of a worldwide exclusive for you, and I've quite a lot of slides to show you that are going to show you what the new version of mitochondrial DNA is going to look at. So you're not going to get a scientific talk today. It may be the science festival, but I'm not a scientist. So you're going to get a talk on how to use mitochondrial and what you can find out of it. So you may wonder why I said 4 types of DNA and there's only 3 tests up there. The reason for that is the 4th type of DNA is xDNA. Now, xDNA has a different inheritance pattern. I'm not going to say much more than that because it's a 1-hour talk on its own. You really don't want to hear that today as well. So it's included with your autosomal test. So if you have tested with Ancestry, they measure your X chromosome. They just don't give you the results. So you have to upload your DNA into FamilyTreeDNA or into GEDmatch in order to see your matches on the X chromosome. But you have already paid for that. Again, with MyHeritage, they don't give you the information, but it has been processed. So that's the 4th type, but it's not a specific test, and that's why it's not up there on the screen. Okay, so this, going back now to the mitochondrial DNA. As I said, it's about the matrilineal line. Now, if you look at the person at the very bottom, that's a male. And that's because either males or females can do this test, because everyone has mitochondrial DNA. So everyone gets it from their mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from her mother. And it goes right back. So normally you get matches back at least 24 generations and sometimes more. Now, the difficult thing up to now has been that it's hard to tell how far back the match is. Now, it's very nice to know that you're related to someone 18 generations back, but it's not going to help you add a name to your family tree. And I think one of the problems has been that people don't know how far back on this line a match is, but that's going to change now, so it is. So it's also going to give you information on the ancient origins of your line as well. So it's going to give you that deep past, and your mitochondrial DNA can be traced back to who they call mitochondrial Eve. Now, this isn't Adam and Eve, this is mitochondrial Eve. So who's mitochondrial Eve? So mitochondrial Eve was a woman who lived in Africa about 150,000 years ago. Now that is a debatable fact, and it's constantly shifting in our time. But it's around 150,000 years ago. She wasn't the first woman that ever lived, but she is the only woman that has everybody on the planet is descended from her. So she is the only woman that lived at that time who has living descendants. Now that's quite an amazing thing, isn't it? And that can be traced through mitochondrial haplogroups, and they can see the differences, and they can see how connected every single human is on the planet through their mitochondrial DNA. So through that, they've been able to build a tree of mitochondrial haplogroups, and we're going to go into that in a minute and just explain what that means to you. But basically, those little changes that happen in mitochondrial DNA happen every 6, 7, 10 generations. As they happen, then they come down into a different line of the family. So if you think of it as a big, big, big family tree with everyone in the world on it, and it goes back to one person who lived about 150,000 years ago. It's quite an amazing fact, but this is what you get out of your mitochondrial DNA. So it shows the connections of everyone, and it shows the migration patterns of people across the world as well. Okay, so the only company that produces information on your mitochondrial DNA is FamilyTreeDNA. They're the only company that has a matching database. So they give you matches that are on your mitochondrial DNA specifically. Now, they started these tests as early as the year 2000. And you can see here in this little circle, the mitochondrial DNA is outside of the cell, and it's in the shape of a circle. Now, at the top, you can see a little red bit, just at about 11 o'clock to midnight. That bit is the HBR1 level. It's the hypervariable region. And that is what they started to look at when they did mitochondrial tests way back in the year 2000. That's all they could do. Then in 2002, FamilyTreeDNA added on the hypervariable region 2. So that's the bit from 12 to 1. Then in 2006, they started to do the coding regions, which is the rest of the mitochondria. So that means that every single position in the mitochondrial DNA is being processed for you. So you're getting a result at every single point. So it's a full sequence test, and there is no upgrade ever going to be possible because they are taking every ounce out of your mitochondrial DNA and giving you all of that information. So they've been doing that from 2006. So the database has been slowly built up. But even now, what you can do is you can still compare with everyone who's ever tested, and you will continue to be able to do so. So even someone who tested in the year 2000 and never bothered to upgrade whenever the higher levels come out, you can still compare with those people as well. So anyone who's ever done a mitochondrial test, you can compare with them if you test your mitochondrial DNA. So they're looking now at 16,569 base pairs. So that's the complete mitochondria. And that's what they are doing when they do this test for you. So when they are putting all of this information together, it's not the same as autosomal DNA. You have to look at it in a different way because you're getting two things here. You're getting information on your recent generations and also also on distant generations as well. So there's more information available. So I'm just going to explain to you now what a haplogroup is. Oh, sorry. Okay, so a haplogroup is a genetic population group of people who share a common ancestor on either the patrilineal or the matrilineal line. Now, the patrilineal is your father's father's father, and the matrilineal is your mother's mother's mother. So the same concept of a haplogroup applies to both Y and mitochondrial DNA. So what they're doing is they are giving you information on these particular lines. And what they're doing is they are looking, as I said earlier, at these little changes or mutations that take place in both of those lines, and they're tracking them down from mitochondrial Eve right down to the present day. And they're able to see exactly which group you're part of. Now, there may be a change that took place 20,000 years ago. There may be another change that took place 2,000 years ago. So you have a different haplogroup at each level. So you don't just have one haplogroup, you have lots as they come through time. But the one that you're most interested in is the lowest level one, the one that's closest to the present day, because that's the one that's going to give you more information on your family tree. But you will have haplogroups, so they're all nested into each other because they're happening in successive generations. So what has happened is at the moment, there's 5,434 branches. And what that means is that's those different levels that have taken place over time. So you come down from mitochondrial Eve, and then maybe there's 8 or 10 different levels, and then each of them has a sub-level and a sub-level and a sub-level. So that's what a haplotree is. It's the tree of all of these mutations, and you have one path up from you to the top of the tree. So it's going up a very specific path. And that's what you find when you do your mitochondrial DNA. So the academics put all this information into what they called a phylotree. And they haven't updated this from 2016. And then what happened was FamilyTreeDNA were using this phylotree. And I think it had been about 17 different incarnations of it. And then it just wasn't updated again. And there's been no update ever since. So FamilyTreeDNA decided that if they wanted to encourage people to test their mitochondrial DNA, they had to do it themselves. So they started in 2018 and they come up with a mitochondrial haplotree. So they increased what had been done by the academics and they improved on it. And they based this on the results that people were getting. So you could have a mutation in your DNA, and maybe that's the first time that mutation has ever been found. So that's a new mutation that can be added onto the tree. So when 2 or 3 people share a mutation, it gets added onto the worldwide tree. So what they did was they just did one tree, and it's been left there. But then what they have done since is they decided that they were going to have to improve on this. So at the moment, there's 5,400. And this is really why people, I mean, it's quite a good test even now, but it's only 5,400 if you think of them as a classification. But that's not helping you to add a name to your tree. So what we're looking for is to improve on this to make it more useful for genealogy. So they decided that they were going to do something more, and they were going to increase this and make it more useful for genealogists. And that's what they've now done. So they launched the Million Mito Project. And the Million Mito Project was launched in 2020. And what this was, it was to encourage people to test their mitochondrial DNA. And then all of those results, as I said, they're all now the full sequence level. So this is far more DNA that they have now than the academics had when they did their phyllo tree. So this is now a very improved tree. And what they've tried to do is build a new tree. They also found that some of the mutations were in the wrong place. So the academics had got some of these wrong, and they've had to move them to different parts of the tree. So they've greatly improved. There's not 5,464 branches now. There's going to be over 40,000 branches. So that's going to improve it by at least 8 times. And what that means is because you have more branches, they're not all spreading out. They're actually coming down. So if you were given a branch before, your branch could be 1,500 years old. It could be now that you will have 3 or 4 or 5 different branches beneath that point. So this is allowing them to refine your results and give you something that's a lot more genealogically useful. Now, they're not even going to stop there, because what's going to happen is every time new results come in, they will be adding additional branches to this tree. So this tree isn't just like the last one was and static. This is going to be updated regularly. The Y-DNA haplotree is actually updated weekly. I don't know if they'll be able to do that with the mitochondrial one at the beginning, but it will be updated regularly. So it will continue to improve and continue to grow as more people test. And then that means that you test once, and then as other people test, what will happen is your results will be refined and they will be able to give you more information. But you won't have to pay for that because you're already in the database and you can access your results at any time. So when you get those new branches, it's going to give you better definition. So it's going to be more specific. It's going to give you a timescale estimate. Now, that's a really crucial thing. And this is what's been missing in mitochondrial DNA until now. So every one of these 40,000 branches is going to be associated with a date. And this date is when they say this particular haplogroup occurred. So as I said, a haplogroup is a change or a mutation or a variant. You can call it whatever you like, but they all occurred throughout history. So if they find someone with 5 mutations and then they find someone has only got 1 of them, well then they know that that one is the oldest of those 5. So they can start to put them into an order and they can start to work out by all of the other mutations when they actually occurred. And then they've got all the ancient remains that are being found. And these ancient remains all are having their DNA processed, and you may get Y-DNA if it's a male, but whether they're male or female, you're definitely going to get mitochondrial DNA. And then you know how old that body is, and you know what mutations they had. So you're also getting a comparison to all of those remains as well. So they can then start to put all of this together, and it's really, really interesting what they can provide. So it's this whole structure is what you need, and this is why it's different than autosomal DNA. It's a new way of thinking, but it's really mind-blowing the immense amount of information you can get, which is telling you where your line came from. Okay, so there's going to be improved interpretation, and now I'm going to take you into slides to show you what this is going to look like. Now, this is going to be launched in the next few weeks, and for those of you who said earlier that you've already tested your mitochondrial DNA, you will have access to this information. Everybody's getting a free upgrade. But for those of you who maybe haven't done the test yet, then what you will get is you will get those results in this new format. So I have got some preview slides of what everything is going to look like. So I thought that was the best way to explain to you what your results are going to be like. So I'm just going to take you through the pages that you would get and just explain to you what they mean. Okay. Oh. All right, this is okay. So there's going to be a new homepage for mitochondrial. So when you log into your account, this is what you're going to see here. It's going to be your mitochondrial DNA, and under the previous haplotree, you got a designation of a haplogroup, And don't forget, a haplogroup is the most recent one that they can give you. But all of the ones up until now have been quite far back in time. So they give you a little badge and they tell you what that is. But what they're going to give you now is they're going to give you a second badge, because they're not going to take the old tree away. They're going to just put the other tree beside it for a while, because obviously people have used the old one up until now and they don't want to leave those people behind. So you're going to get both. So you're going to get the high level haplogroup and you're going to get the more refined one. So as far as I'm aware now, whenever your results come back, you would get the old one first, and then a couple of weeks later, you're going to get an email to say that your new specific classification has arrived, and you can go in and look at that. So I think both of them will arrive just at a slightly different time, although that's still to be decided. So you will have these little buttons to press, and we're going to look then at the matches, and we're going to look at this Discover Haplogroup Reports. Now, that sounds a wee bit boring and something you wouldn't really want to look at, but it's really, really insightful, and that's what I'm going to show you next. Okay, so this is the matches page, and again, this is the first time this has been shown. So this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have the name of the person in the column at the left-hand side. Now, for those of you who have used FamilyTreeDNA before, you will notice that the mitochondrial DNA information is being put into the same format. So that means if you've done an autosomal test with them or you've done a Y test, then you're getting to have a common type of match page. So it's going to become a bit more easy to work your way around. So that's what they've been trying to achieve here. So you've got your haplogroup, and the haplogroup is the old one here. And then you've got the new one for the new mito tree. So they're going to give you both of those there. And then they're going to tell you what place or what country of origin your haplogroup came from. And then the earliest known ancestor of your particular match. So again, that is input by the person themselves. So whenever you do this test, you're encouraged to enter your earliest known ancestor on that line. Now, it must always be a female, but when you look at this, sometimes you will see a male in, because what some people do is say, well, the mitochondrial test is my mother's side, so I'll go for my mother's father's 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 father. But that's not what you do. It's always your mother's 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 mother. And that's what it should be. So if you see anyone has put in a male's name, they've got it wrong. So you can also access people's trees, and the little tree symbol over at the left-hand side allows you to click on somebody's family tree, providing they have uploaded one, and then you can see their family tree. So I would check the tree and also check the name of the earliest known ancestor, because you might get different information if they have input the wrong information. So that's basically the format of your matches page. And you will also get a genetic distance. So the genetic distance is how different they are to you. So it says exact match for those ones at the top, and that means there is no differences whatsoever in your mitochondrial DNA. So that is going to be the closest matches for you. Now, that's the way they do it at the moment, but because of the classification system, occasionally it doesn't work as simply as it should. And sometimes a 1 or a 2 can be closer to you than an exact match. That's all being fixed, and that is all going to change. So when you look at your mitochondrial matches, because they have now over 40,000 haplogroups, it's going to be based on a really refined tree, and that's going to make the information far more accurate and far more clear and easy to understand. So that's what you get. I have just put up a little shot to let you see there's a little search bar as well. So you can bring down that little search bar at the top to do a search through your matches by name or by haplogroup or by a country of origin. And then if you want to do from the sort by filter, there's a little sort by filter there. And again, you can choose that, and you can do other things. You can look by haplogroup or by genetic distance. So you can order your matches and work through your match list in many different ways by using those filters. And again, one of them that I like is recent matches. So if you haven't been in it for a while and you just want to see if you've got any recent matches, you can just go in and put them all in date order, and it will show you any that you've got in more recent times. So that can be helpful too. So it's useful when you get your results back to explore those filters and just play around with it and get to understand what it's telling you. And in the Family History Society, we do a lot of education and talks on this, and we will also help you to understand what all of this information means. But a lot of the information and the interpretation is now done by FamilyTreeDNA, and we're going to see that coming up on some of the slides coming up now. So the next one now is matches maps. And what that allows you to do is to see the country and the place that your matches ancestors came from. So again, as well as entering the name of the earliest known ancestor that you have whenever you do the test, you're encouraged to put in a little pin into Google Maps, and that puts in one of these little pins and allows you to see by colour which are closest to you. Now, this is an example of my own DNA because this is also available at the moment. The white pin is my ancestor, and then all of these different colour ones are down. There's a little key at the bottom. So your red, your orange, and your yellow are the closest ones. And I can see that there's a little cluster of orange and yellow ones down in Cornwall. So that's given me a very good clue that my mitochondrial line came from Cornwall. And that can be very useful information because I don't have genealogical information that takes me back there. I can get to Ballycarry, and that's as far as I can get. And that's about 1800. But I can't get back beyond that. But obviously then that is telling me that it's probably an English haplogroup. And then as more people test, I will get more and more matches to that particular area. But already, if I zoom in, because you can zoom in and out on this map, there's actually, it looks like there's 3 little pins in there, but there's actually 4. Because when you zoom in close, there's ones on top of each other. So as the map gets more improved, and again, that relies on people putting that information in. But most people now do enter that information, and that's why this is an increasingly useful feature. So it's good not only to look at your matches by name, but also geographically too. And that is just a different way of looking at things, but it's increasingly powerful because it's giving you something that you don't otherwise have. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is the MT Discover. So this is the new interpretive database which they're building to explain your mitochondrial DNA to you. So this is where you're not going to have to work all of this out. It's all going to be presented for you. At the moment, you have to work it out yourself. They're going to present the information to you in easy to understand format. And if anyone has done a Y test or a big Y test at the moment, then they may have used the version of Discover which has been built for Y-DNA. And it's revolutionized Y-DNA because it's now something that everyone can understand and use and get some knowledge out of. And that's really what you want to do. You want your DNA results to be useful to you. And using Discover is going to really help you. So this is the little menu of information that you can get from your Y-DNA Discover. And what they are going to do is replicate that for mitochondrial DNA. So they're going to give you fun facts, they're going to give you information on your deep origins, and they're going to give you timescales. So all of this information is going to be presented to you in a very simple format. And I'm going to be showing you screenshots of what these particular dialogues are going to look like so as you can understand. So it's going to give you that clear interpretation. And it's going to give you really more insights into where your family came from and how you can use this information in terms of your genealogy. And also, it's information that you can't get any other way. You can do as much genealogy as you want. You will not get this information because the records do not go back hundreds of thousands of years, but your DNA does. It's incredible. But this is the first time that this information has been available to all of us in this type of a format. So I'm just going to take you through some of these different things to show you what they look like. So the first is the haplogroup story. And what this does is this shows you your haplogroup at the bottom, and it gives you a date for it. Now this one is showing you it's 400 CE, and CE is Common Era, or it's really what most of us would call AD. So it's been dated to 400 AD, and it's then saying that there's 22 people have this particular haplogroup. So only 22 people in the entire database have this particular type of mitochondrial DNA. And they're then saying it grew out of this one that is further back. So that they then tell you the one above that. Then it tells you the countries that people's earliest known ancestors are from. So this isn't where the testers are, this is where their earliest known ancestors are from. And you can see for this one here, 5 of them are from Northern Ireland, 4 are from Scotland, 4 from the United States, 1 from England, and then it says here there's 8 from unknown countries because they haven't yet entered that information. So it's starting to allow you to see that you're part of this particular group, how many people are in that, what date it was created, and what countries those people are in. So that's already given you something that's very easy to understand, all just on the one page. So this is why Discover is a very good format for making this information readily available to you. So that's the first thing you get. Then they give you a country frequency. So they show you on the map where these places are that you are sharing in this particular haplogroup. Then a fun one, they give you notable connections. So they have got mitochondrial DNA of lots of famous people. These could be historical figures or they could be celebrities. They've done this for Y-DNA and they have thousands of people in there and they're always adding to that every single week. So it's very interesting that you can go in there and you can see who you are related to on your mitochondrial line. That's what's going to be available to us. But it's also going to say to you how far back in time you share a common ancestor. Now, most of them do think of this as a fun fact because they're not exactly going to be close relatives to you. And you're going to find that somebody is maybe sharing an ancestor with you at 2000 BC, or it could be 500 AD on occasion, but they're more likely to be older. But I mean, it's just the fun. It's a bit like if you're looking at your ethnicity results, you're getting a ballpark figure. This is accurate. But I mean, we're all related to each other if you go far enough back. But it's just letting you know these famous people have this haplogroup. They match you at this particular level. And it's something that people enjoy. I must say, I enjoy seeing this. And I haven't met anyone yet who hasn't enjoyed seeing this information. And because they're adding them all the time, you get to see these. And you get to see new ones coming in as well. So when you check your results intermittently, then you will get this new information and you'll see them. And you just click on them at the top of the page. So you will get as many as match you. So it is very, very good just to see these. And then they put in a little biography about the person, and if it's a recent person, it could be a photograph as well. But because everyone has mitochondrial DNA, there's eventually going to be more of these than there is for Y-DNA, because Y-DNA is only males, and males and females both have mitochondrial DNA. So as they add more people in here, it's going to be even more interesting than it is currently for the Y-DNA. So that's your notable connections. So the next one is your ancient connections, and I love this one too. So what they do is they would look at any papers which have been produced for ancient remains that have been found in archaeological digs. And they find the mitochondrial haplogroup, and they would get them from those papers and they enter them into the FamilyTreeDNA database. And then because they know what haplogroup they have dated every one of these 40,000 haplogroups. That's why it has been a few years in the production of this new tree. And every one of them is dated. And they can tell you then that you shared an ancestor at a certain time. So they show you in the little picture, and then just a bit further back is the little spade, because that's the archaeological remains. And then when you had your common ancestor, and there's a date there as well. And then they tell you about that particular dig where the person was found as well. So that can give you an insight to where your ancestors lived at that particular time period, because it's giving you an insight into where they were in the world. So they could have been dug up anywhere in the world, but you will still have a match with them if you have a matching mitochondrial haplogroup. So you can see again, that's a very powerful thing. And when I look at mine for the Y-DNA, because I mean that's already out for the Y-DNA, I can see that mine were in England, Scotland, and a few in Dublin in the Viking era. So it's giving you that idea of where people were living. I've also found people in Northern Ireland who thought that they were totally English or Scottish, and they're getting Armenian or Ukrainian origins. So if you're getting that in the Y-DNA, you're also going to get that type of thing on the mitochondrial DNA. So you might get a surprise, and you might get something that you didn't expect. And that's the whole excitement of doing these tests, because it's a way of finding out something you can't find out any other way. So then there's more. They then give you a time tree. And this is again another way of presenting the information to you. So they give you the particular haplogroup, and then they show you all of the different people who connect to you by flag of origin. So you can look at it in that format, or you can look at it in a different format. And what they do with this one is they give you it with the match name there and the earliest known ancestor down the side. So you can toggle in between them, and you can see your match list and the earliest known ancestor. So you can do that, or the flags. But again, the flags is very useful because you can then see where people are from and where you're connecting to. So it's just produced in a lot of different formats. So as if you want to look at your DNA from any perspective, then you can go in and look at the right report to give you that information, and it's all already there for you. And this will be updated regularly. So whenever new testers come in, they will be slotted into the database, and then your results could change as well. And the timescale estimates will change slightly over time. They're all rounded to about 50 years at the moment, but they will change slightly over time as new haplogroups are found. So what they might have at the moment is that there might be a group of 5 different mutations, and maybe every one that has any of them has all of them. So that means they have a group of equivalent mutations, but they don't know which is the earliest and which was the latest one. They will be able to find that out over time as more people test. Now, just during the Million Mito project, they found a new haplogroup from FamilyTreeDNA testing in 2022. They found a new haplogroup called L7, and this is 100,000 years old, and it originated in Africa. They didn't know that this had ever occurred. It wasn't in any of the academics' work because they hadn't enough data to actually find that. Now they've found, I think it's 16 people who now are disconnected from everyone else who's done their mitochondrial DNA by 100,000 years. They're down at the bottom of this particular branch, whereas everybody else, you have to go up 100,000 years to get into the rest of the tree to come back down again to the present day. So it's incredible that they can find a haplogroup that is as old as that still has descendants alive today. And that's because there's some parts of the world aren't as well tested, and this one was found in Africa. So they hadn't as many African people in the database. Now, as they're increasing that, they're finding things that they didn't expect to find. And that will continue to happen as more people test. It's probably less likely to happen in Europe, but it may. And you don't know what you're going to find whenever they're processing these results for you. Okay, so what they also do is they give you the mito tree. So this is the new mito tree that has the 40,000 different groupings on it. So they give you the particular branch. There's the branch at the top, and they tell you when it's dated to, and then they give you the mutations that are known to identify that particular branch. So that's just the actual, that's the actual mutation that you have in your DNA that enables them to know that you're part of that particular haplogroup. And then they can break it down by the particular group and how they're nested into each other. And then you can see it by flag again, how many people are in each group. So that's not a screen that everyone would maybe want to look at the beginning, but as you learn more about your mitochondrial DNA, that might be increasingly useful to you. Then you can get as well a migration map, and this shows you where your line started in Africa and where it came to. And this is the one I like, it's the ancestral path. Now, sorry, this isn't working too well for me today, sorry. Right, the ancestral path. So what this does is this shows all of your haplogroups in a row. So number 1 is your most recent haplogroup. Then the haplogroup, it's the mutation above that, is number 2, number 3, number 4. Then they give you the date for when they think they occurred, for what part, the Stone Age a lot of them are. And then they tell you how many people match them. Now, obviously the information isn't in this yet because this is just a preview screen. But over here is where you're going to have your modern descendants in there. So that's going to be people who match you at all of those different levels. All people who have tested the mitochondrial DNA. And then the ancient connections are going to be listed there too. So you're going to see where your ancient connections come in, and then you're going to be able to access them on that other screen. But that allows you to see all the mutations going right back from you, right back to mitochondrial Eve. So that'll take you right back there, and there'll probably be maybe 20, 30, 40 of those all arranged in a row. And that's all the ones that you're positive for. Now that's going to be useful in months to come, because another thing that FamilyTreeDNA are going to do within the next year or two is anyone who's done an autosomal test with them is going to be given a free high-level mitochondrial haplogroup. Now that's not the same as a mitochondrial test, because you won't get matches and you won't get the lowest level haplogroup. You will get a higher level one up around here. And when you get that, you will be able to look at your more recent matches and see if any of your haplogroups match any of theirs. And if they do, it's a very good clue that they are related to you on the mitochondrial line. So that's why that will be more useful in months to come. So again, all of that format is, I think that's easy to understand. You're just looking at a table. If you like tables, that'll appeal to you. I actually quite like that format, but it allows you to see exactly everything that is going on, and then that will be updated over time as they change them. And then you will see there'll be more modern descendants coming in every week. There'll be more ancient connections being added regularly as well. Okay. So just to give you an idea, I just put this little slide in. What regions do mitochondrial haplogroups represent? So all of the haplogroups all start with different letters of the alphabet, and that's your high-level haplogroup. And then it will come down and it will give you lots of different letters and numbers and exclamation marks, which will give your particular haplogroup beneath that. But there's certain ones are European. Some have been found to be Native American, some are African, and some are Asian. So when you get a haplogroup, it can be very useful to look at that to see which yours actually is. And again, in Discover, you will be able to see that on the screen called Haplogroup Story, because it will connect you to the people who you share DNA with, and you'll be able to see where their lines are from as well. But normally, that's what you'll find. Now, when we've been doing some mitochondrial testing in our Island McGee project, we have found that there's a big variation in the European haplogroups that we've found. We've found U's and V's and T's and J's. It's a wee bit more mixed up than what it is on the Y DNA. And that's maybe because women have travelled further over time and joined different tribes as they moved across the world. So the migration patterns have been different than what they have for Y DNA. So it's interesting that you can find people living in a very small community that have totally distinct haplogroups. And that's just something that we're going to find more and more in Northern Ireland. Because we have quite a lot of people have done mitochondrial DNA already in Northern Ireland. And that's why it's useful when more people test, because then we all learn from each other's results and everyone's results refines everybody else's. So I just thought that was an interesting slide to add in there. So I'm nearly finished now. I'm just going to give you a little bit more information on what we do in our society. So we have a North of Ireland DNA project, as you can see on my t-shirt here. At the moment, we have over 10,100 members. And that is people who have got ancestors from one of the 9 counties of Ulster. That's why we're called North of Ireland. It's free to join our project. Anyone who has purchased a DNA kit from our society is already in that project. But if you've tested with Ancestry or MyHeritage or 23andMe, and then what you have to do is you have to upload your DNA into FamilyTreeDNA in order to get autosomal results to be compared with people in our particular project. Now, our project has probably one of the largest concentrations of people with local matches. So if you're looking for local DNA matches, that's going to be a benefit to you because these people haven't tested with Ancestry. So if that's where you've tested, you're not going to see a match. So what you can do is you can go to our website, and on this little menu here, you can see one is for DNA. If you just click on that, it allows you to get to a screen that says how to transfer your DNA results. And if you scroll down that page, there is very clear instructions on how to do the upload from Ancestry to FamilyTreeDNA. It's free, and it doesn't change anything on Ancestry. So you'll get results probably within about 48 hours, and sometimes it can be within 2 or 3 hours. So you get a match list the same as you do on Ancestry, but it's in a totally different database. So you're basically duplicating your results. Now, it's not a perfect copy of your DNA, and this is something that doesn't really get said at an awful lot of talks. I hear an awful lot of DNA speakers who just say, oh, just do the uploads. Uploads are great, but they're not perfect, and you have to remember that. The reason they're not perfect is that all of the different companies test different points in your DNA. So if you're one of these people like me who's using your DNA every day, I would encourage you not to do an upload, but to actually purchase a new kit from FamilyTreeDNA, because that's the one that's going to be most compatible to the people on that database. It's not expensive to do so. It's only £40, and you have lifetime access to that, and that will allow you to see all of that information. If you're only going to be using your DNA results every now and again, well, then your top matches are going to be accurate anyhow, so an upload will be fine. So you could then do the free upload from Ancestry, and that will be sufficient. So it's what you want out of it. So do think about that. But one of the benefits of FamilyTreeDNA is that you have a lot more tools for working with your DNA. Ancestry don't give you what they call a chromosome browser. Now, there's a little learning curve to a chromosome browser, but it allows you to get a high level of accuracy in your matches, because it's very easy to make a mistake on Ancestry and think you're related a certain way, and you think you've proved it when in reality you really haven't, and you could be totally misleading yourself. And because you've done that, then you're finding another match, basing it on the first one, and then you're off again. And people do this over and over again. I know that this goes wrong, and I occasionally do it in Ancestry. So even when I know that it goes wrong, I still make the mistakes. So I can assure you that's what people are doing. You cannot do that on FamilyTreeDNA, because when you use the chromosome browser, you can see that people are all related through the same family line. So it does help you to be into that database as well. We also do training courses as well, and we will give you information on using all of these different companies and all of the different tools that they make available for analysing your DNA. But again, as I said, FamilyTreeDNA is the only one that does the Y and the mitochondrial tests. So now the most important slide of all, the prices. And we have the kits with us today out in reception. So the mitochondrial test that I've been talking about is normally $159. The reason these prices are in dollars is because FamilyTreeDNA is an American company. They have given us a special discount for this particular talk, and they're giving a 40%, not 40%, $40 discount, which brings it down to $119. Now that works out at £94, and that's for your full mitochondrial test. As I said, there's no upgrade on that, so once you do that, you're in the database for life. The autosomal test that I mentioned, which is the same one that Ancestry and MyHeritage and all do, it's £40 if you want to do that with FamilyTreeDNA. And there's also the Y-DNA. There's 3 different levels of Y testing. We haven't been able to talk about that today, but the Y37 is the entrance level of the Y-DNA. We have 2 kits available at the moment. We have just 2 left, which is the Y37 test and the autosomal test on the 1 kit. And we have them for £85. Now, the Y37 is normally $95 on its own. So this is both kits for $85. And the only reason we have this is that we're a charity and we have bought this during a previous sale with our own money. And basically all we're doing is selling them on because we don't make money out of DNA tests. I might sound like a salesman today, but I make no money out of this whatsoever. We are a charity and we are not making any money out of DNA. What we're doing is helping people to learn what to do and encouraging them to test because we know it's better for everyone when they do that. Now, if you want a DNA test any other time of the year, we can provide them to you. And we have the test kits in our research centre in Newton Abbey, and we're happy to post them out across the UK. You mightn't be able to see it because I've just realised it's in black at the bottom there. The email address is dna@nifhs.org. If you picked up one of our DNA leaflets, it's actually on that. So you can email us at any stage and we will endeavour to give you the best price that's available at the time for any of the autosomal, mitochondrial or Y-DNA tests. Okay, thanks for listening to me. So is there any questions on anything I've said today?